In less than half a year, Filipinos will once again head to the polls to vote in the 2022 presidential elections. Many Filipinos on social media have now started to voice out their reasons on why their candidate should be the country's next chief executive. One of the closer races in recent surveys, however, has been for the post of vice president. While a recent Publicus Asia survey showed that Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte is the top pick for vice president, back in November, topping the SWS survey by a huge margin was Senate President Tito Sotto. This year, the chiefs had the chance to speak with two of the 6 vice presidential aspirants, Senate President Tito Sotto and Professor Walden Bello. Let's take another listen at their agendas and advocacies for 2022.
Welcome to this special edition of the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay, and with us are Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5, and Ed Lingao of One News. And Chiefs, idiretso ko na yung introduction to the guest because joining us tonight is Senate President Senator Tito Sotto. Senator Sotto is also chairman of the Nationalist People's Coalition. Good evening, Tito Sen.
Good evening, Robbie.
Sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Ed. Good evening, Ma'am Lucy, Ma'am Ami. Good evening sa inyo lahat. Magandang gabi po.
Senator, we've been talking about this topic for so many weeks now, pero wala pang nagdideklara. To this point lang, wala pang nagdideklara. Can we make it official? Is it elections? Is it campaign season already? Wala na bang wag na nating i-deny yun?
Not exactly. Mahirap eh. Because like for example, in our case, the Nationalist People's Coalition, we have been trying to consult with our other party mates nationwide, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, as you well know. Marami kaming congressman, marami kaming mayor, vice mayor, konsehal, marami kaming governor. So, nationwide, pagka nagtatawagan kami, or dati kasi pwede na akong tumawag antimano, kami nila ambassador dating ng araw, patawag lang kami ng meeting, dadating halos lahat mga 80-70% ang dumarating sa amin So madaling magkonsulta. Lately, hindi, at hindi namin magawa. I could not go out of my way to consult everyone as much as possible because they're all busy because of the pandemic. That's number one. And then the second thing is that they're busy with their constituency. So, gustuhin man nating na parang election or campaign season na, hindi pa rin talaga Totally, we could not do that. Even in our case, we're, like in my case, I'm seriously considering it. Senator Lacson is seriously considering it. But we could not outright really admit na, we're running. It's better to be accurate or honest about it instead of just saying na, no, I'm not running because I was papayal ka na certificate of candidacy. Yung iba naman, magdideklara na agad. Pagkatapos later on, magbabago isip. So we would rather exercise prudence at this point para masiguro. And that's the case as far as NPC is concerned.
Okay, mahirap naman talaga magsalita for everyone, as I said. So let's start with what you can say for yourself. And total, hindi naman kaila na gaya nga po ng sinasabi niyo, nagsasalita rin naman si Ping Lacson. When you say that you and Ping Lacson have been speaking and you are candid about, pinag-iisipan namin, what exactly does that mean?
We have listed down, Senator Lacson and I, we've listed down the ills of the country. And our big question is, where are we going? Are we going forward? Do we want to go forward? Ganun yung dating So, meron kami listahan nung ano yung mga pinag-uusapan natin. Like the bad economy, yung the West Philippine Sea, COVID-19, pandemic, di ba? Tapos the issue of corruption. Then next year, it will be 13 trillion debt of the government. Meron pang increase ng internal revenue allotment because of the Mandana Supreme Court ruling that the local government units will be getting more in their internal revenue allotments and therefore less will be left with the national government. Yung mga ganito. And then the unemployment rate, 30% hunger rate. Meron pang isa pang problema, yung low tax revenue, and then also next year, the budget of the pension for the military personnel
Yeah,
will be
lumuloko sir.
higher than the budget of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. So we sat down, we were thinking, and we were talking to our friends and those who were approaching us, the different sectors who were telling us to consider running. So, ang pinag-uusapan muna namin, meron ba tayong solusyon dito? Meron kaming iniisip, like for example, in the case of corruption, illegal drugs and drug abuse and peace and order, meron kami mga formulate na programa. So, we'd rather be sure that we have the answers or we have the proposals, at the very least, the proposals to handle or to face these problems bago kami tumalon na sabihin namin, tatakbo na kami. Ganyan yung sitwasyon. No? So, we have agreed also, of course, alam nyo naman, talagang we have been very close since the late 80s. Ano? Kami nila Senator Lacson, Senator Honasan, hindi naman kami naghihiwa-hiwalay. So, if Senator Lacson, I've said it before, if Senator Lacson runs as for the presidency, I will be the running mate. I will support him. And vice versa, as you have mentioned before.
Senator, pag natuluyan, anong classification niyo? Will you be classified as opposition, center, kakampi ba kayo ng administration? Kasi yung isang bayan is also trying to unify the opposition. Kasama ba kayo doon? Anong papel doon ng National People's Coalition?
Kung sakaling matuloy kami yung neutral. Kami yung alternative. Because like in the case of NPC, I still have I have yet to discuss it with my party mates. Hindi lahat siyempre alam ko na susuporta kaagad kay Senator Lacson because he's not a member of NPC. Pero kami kasi as NPC right now, we are in alliance with the President. We have no coalition, we have no alliance with any other political party. We are in alliance with the President because that was the agreement of the leadership of NPC, even the time that Buster Dundee was alive. Yun yung namin talaga, yun ang napagkasundoan namin. So, we will be an alternative. We will be neutral. We're not opposition, but we're not the administration. Unless all of a sudden the administration decides that we're it. Then you become the administration.
So medyo malabo yata, Senator, yung one-on-one, no? Administration, opposition, at the very least, magiging three-cornered fight yan. Kung sakaling magkatuluyan yung mga pinag-uusapan ngayon na alliances. Nakikita niyo ba yon?
Yes, I agree. Malamang ganun yun. I concur with that. Kasi sa akin lang, on a personal note, then they could, with due respect to them, ako tingin ko, it will be Sara Duterte, it will be Isko Moreno, Manny Pacquiao, Leni Robredo, and Senator Ping Lacson.
Okay, how much?
O baka may Bongbong Marcos pa. So,
Marami yun.
Among the six, baka mga isa, dalawa doon, baka mag-slide to Vice President.
Okay, how much of your decision rests on the decision of Senator Lacson, especially now na kino-consider din siya ng LP coalition, no, na maging kandidato. Isa siya sa mga medyo inimbitahan nila or inoferan at the very least.
I haven't thought of it that way. Hindi ko naisip na ganun ng if it rests on the decision of Senator Lacson because we've always focused on our tandem together and the programs that we want to do. Doon talaga nakafocus. I should start thinking about your question, Lucy.
So hindi necessarily, kasi like si Senator Trillanes, sabi niya, pag hindi tumakbo si VP, tatakbo siya. I mean, ganun siya ka-sure about what he's going to do. So yours is not as, let's just say, firm or solid right now. No? Parang, in other words,
I'd
you
say
can
that
go it alone.
Yes,
Yeah.
medyo fluid pa at this point. If you want to put it that way, ganun mo. Parang ganun muna.
Sir, over the
How-
weekend, si Chavit Singson joined your party, the party of which you're chairman, the National People's Coalition. And of course, Chavit is very well known to be a close advisor and good friend of Senator Pacquiao. Well, obviously, a lot of people are asking, is Chavit laying the groundwork for Manny Pacquiao to also join the NPC and possibly run for president under the NPC?
I was not surprised to hear that from people. Na makakala nila parang opening lang si Chavit. Ano, but really, very bluntly, we never discussed Manny Pacquiao. We never talked about him. When we talked a few months ago, when he was trying to get the pulse of the different organizations, different political parties, tapos nung kausap niya ako, interesado siya sa NPC because the founder is a friend of his, you know. And then sabi ko nga, I never realized na wala siyang political party, national political party. Meron siya sa local nila, sa Ilocos Sur. So I said, of course, if you want to join the NPC, you will be most welcome. And then Wednesday, 3 days before he took his oath, he called me that night and he was actually, that night, pagtawag niya sa akin, ang balat na niya, pare, sumpa na ako sa'yo. Sabi ko, teka muna. Tawagan natin yung grupo ko. Sabi ko, yung Secretary General namin, yung iba namin. So, we set it Saturday, and even during the time that we were there, we had breakfast before the oath-taking. We did discuss it. We talked about the local politics. We talked about... I think he's going to run for governor. I don't know. You can ask him that, but that's, I think, yun ang tingin kong plano niya.
But if you don't mind, it's a bit, parang, kagaya nga po nito, no? Pinakilala ni Ed si Chavit Singson, and immediately, all Filipinos, that's the one thing they know about him and his political, kay Manny Pacquiao yan, advisor yan ni Manny Pacquiao, malapit niya kay Manny Pacquiao. And so, it just seems that, given yung tema na lahat yan, at pagka binanggit si Manny Pacquiao ngayon, it's always in the context of the 2022 elections. Hindi man lang pumasok sa isip niyo na, teka muna, Congressman Singson, ano bang pakay mo, and for that matter, ano bang alam nyo sa pakay ni Senator Pacquiao?
Hindi. So, I'm sorry, Robbie, really, hindi, ewan ko, it didn't cross my mind. Siguro because of our long-time friendship, ako pa nga ang tinanong niya. Sabi nga niya, basta tumuloy ka, sabi niya, solid, ang Ilocos Sur, solid sa'yo, ganun lang. I'm trying to recall that morning na nagbe-breakfast kami. Baka napag-usapan lang namin yung mga gustong tumakbo, something like that. He never mentioned it. You can ask him. And you can ask those who were with us, Gigi Agabao of Isabela, Dom Mendoza, the Secretary General of the House of Representatives. I don't recall him saying anything about the money or presidential, ano lang eh.
Sige pa.
Napag-usapan lang namin sino yung mga possibly tumakbo.
Pero yung submarine na pag-usapan?
Ha?
Yung submarine na pag-usapan?
Alin doon? Sorry?
Yung submarine na pag-usapan ba?
Hindi, matagal mo na nakita yung luma na yun.
Sige. Isa-isang bagay naman po, yung tungkol naman po ulit sa inyo. I know you've spoken about this already, pero itong usapin ulit ni President Duterte, the option to run for Vice President remains on the table. Your thoughts on that?
Well, if he runs as Vice President, he will be a formidable competitor, surely. But if I decide to run and I have my program of government in hoping to upgrade the office of the Vice President, because instead of being a spare tire, then I would not think of who are the other candidates. Okay lang, sabi nga nila, the more the merrier, and then there will be choices for the people. Ate naman, i-offer ko yung alternative ko, I will offer myself if I do decide to do so. So it's up to the people, sa kanila naman yun.
Ano yung magiging campaign pitch niya, Senator? Medyo matinding kalaban si Presidente kung sakasakali. What are you talking about an alternative? Ano yung ibig niyo sabihin?
One of the programs that I would like to infuse would be a holistic approach on the problem of illegal drugs and drug abuse. It's not happening today. The concentration of the present administration was on enforcement. And the only way you can solve the problem of illegal drugs and drug abuse, and this has been my advocacy since my Vice Mayor Quezon City days, wherein we were voted the model council by the WHO because of my program on the 4 major concerns, which is enforcement, prosecution, prevention, and rehabilitation. Therefore, you handle the problem of supply reduction, and you also handle the bigger problem, which is demand reduction. And that is not being done now. Now, the Office of the Vice President can do that. Can do that. The way I upgraded the Vice Mayor's League of the Philippines in 1988, I think I would be able to do so for the Office of the Vice President. And there will be a holistic approach on the problem of drug abuse. These are 2 different animals. It's related, but it's different. And it's not being approached that way.
Pero Senator, kung ang presidente mo si Ping Lacson can you reassure the public na malaking mababawa sa human rights violations being attributed now to the drug war? Kasi medyo
Senator Lacson will most probably concentrate on the issue of corruption. And he's been known for that. And even during his time, pati pareho ng human rights, when he was PNP chief, at tinunang pulis if you will recall. Hindi lang sa forma, kundi pati sa kilos. Talagang natakot sa kanya. So, I'm so sure that that problem will be if raised will be faced by Senator Lacson head on. Yun ang nakikita ko So,
yes, sir.
As I said right now, it should have been done, but it's not. So, I am going to bring my expertise into it and do it.
On another matter po na I don't know kung nabanggit nyo kanina, but what about the peace process? Napag-usapan nyo po ba ni Senator Lacson, and what is your alternative approach to the peace process?
The current NTF-LCAC program is a very good program. We will continue with that if ever. I'm sure Senator Lacson will continue with that program. I believe in it. It's a good solution to the peace process, and it's happening right now. It's really successful. Kung hindi nga lang dyan sa pandemic, mas maraming nagawang mabuti itong administrasyon as far as that program is concerned. Meron lang mga probinsya na hindi pa masyadong solved, pero it's running well. Definitely, it's running well.
But to be more precise po,
wala rin mga rebelde, biglang may programa na, may ospital na, may eskwelahan na, may mga jobs, may mga pagkakakitaan na, pati mga agricultural issues nila nasasalo because of the budget that we place there. And the budget is not touched by the officers of the NTF-LCAC. The budget goes directly to the LGUs. It's the LGUs that does that. So that's a program that
yes, sir. Sir, you're referring, sir, to the funding arrangements for the barangays under the NTF-LCAC. But what about the other aspect of the NTF-LCAC? I'm referring to how they identify and how they prosecute people they suspect to be members of the left, whom they accuse to be members of the New People's Army.
That's the ATC naman. That's not connected to the program of the task force. That's a different program.
But sir, let me ask you about that. What is your point of view? Yours and Senator Lacson's point of view on, for example, the militant left, on what we now call the legal left, for example, the Makabayan Bloc and all these. Are these terror groups, as stated now by members of the NTF-LCAC and the ATC, or are they are they basically progressives as they claim to be?
On a personal note, as far as I'm concerned, whether you're the legal left or you're the illegal left, whatever category, as long as you do not propose violence, as long as you do not do anything illegal against government or against the people, I have no problem with you. Di
So
ba?
wait, I mean, kaya yun po yung tanong ko sa bukod po sa NTF-ELCAC and bukod po sa mga socio-economic approach to the peace process, in particular sa peace process, peace talks. What will be your approach to the peace talks? Will a presidency under Ping Lacson immediately or consider reopening the peace talks?
That is something that we have not discussed. I'm sorry, I cannot answer for him.
But for yourself?
For myself, as long as there is a ceasefire, we can have peace talks. We cannot have peace talks if there is no ceasefire.
No. Okay, are there other presidentiables within the party or among your allies that you will consider running with or supporting if you decide not to run? I mean, sino yung mga likely? For example, Richard Gordon is an adopted NPC member. If he just runs, will you support him? Or who do you give priority to?
In that case,
of support?
like for example, related to that question, Luigi, ibig sabihin, if Senator Lacson does not run,
Yes.
and then we will consider some other even NPC guest candidates or NPC
Right.
members. At the moment, I will have to honestly answer you by saying that I will cross the bridge when I get there. I have not programmed for it. I have not given it a thought.
What about the Senate slate? Meron na ba kayong mga... Yes, sinong mga
That is the
contenders
easiest.
dyan?
That is the easiest. As far as we're concerned, that is the easiest because we already have NPC stalwarts who are going to come back, like Loren Legarda,
You're right.
JV Ejercito, Sherwin Gatchalian, Chis Escudero. He has never left the party. He had a leave. He took a leave, but he is still NPC. And then, of course, incumbent pa yung iba. Sila dito lapid. And then we have our group in the Senate, incumbent senators like Mig Subiri, Joel Villarema, Sani Angara, Dick Gordon. We have incumbents that are
You have the numbers
friendly.
there, no?
We have oh yes.
You really have the numbers there. I mean,
SP if you don't have the numbers.
yeah. No, I mean your party.
Oh yeah.
And you...
For
do you-
2022.
Yes, for 2022.
The people
Yes.
we want to support, yes, we have.
Oh.
We have the numbers.
Senator, kung hindi tatakbo si President Duterte as VP, who will you consider as the strongest opponent if you will run for VP? Kasi nabanggit na si former Defense Chief Gibo, si Martin Romualdez. Sino yung sa tingin nyo
Bongbong
malakas na malakas? Si Bongbong Marcos, possible as well.
Isko Moreno also, nababanggit for both positions.
Sino yung sa tingin nyo for VP?
I refuse to
Malakas
answer.
na opponent. Yung magiging opponent ninyo kung sakasakali.
I refuse to answer.
Yeah.
I refuse to answer. Ano
Between
yun,
Gibo na lang. Between Gibo and Martin.
Huwag na.
Okay, yung kampanya na lang. How do you think...
If I mention a name, they will put
Yes.
a slant to it. Believe me.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the campaign. How different do you think the campaign will be this time around, considering that we're in a pandemic? Life has changed considerably, especially now that there are more people getting their information from online sources. And of course, yung mga bata, there are more young voters coming in.
All right. Ito, una sa lahat. based on the recent surveys, the people get their are opinionated based on what they hear and see from 80% national television. So yung mga katulad
TV
nyo,
pa rin?
80% national television. Big percentage local television programs. So siguro yung mga news nila.
Anong
mga sabi
study
mo,
yan?
Aba,
Kasi
Yeah,
we're
that's
also
it.
getting
That's it.
studies that show that people are now relying heavily on online sources, no, for news.
no, Facebook comes in about third. Third. Facebook comes in third because yung local television programs saka radio programs, national radio programs, halos magkasabay. Basta I'm so sure that almost 80% ang national TV. Sino ba yung nag-briefing sa akin? Ito, Okta yata. Okta yung Pulse.
Okay.
Ano nag-briefing sa akin yan Okta, I think. And then, you can ask them. And then, Facebook, ang napakababa yung Instagram at Twitter. Napakaliit.
Okay,
Napakaliit.
so
Facebook.
but
Ayun,
Facebook
ito
is
ngayon.
the new, platform.
Pero there should be a call, not only by government, but people, na ang Facebook dapat patinuin. Alam nila they're now thinking about it. There must be, what's this proposal? One name,
Guidelines.
one person, one account. Hindi pa pwede yung 3, 4 ang account mo, meron kang Tarpulano 1, Tarpulano 2, Tarpulano 3, walang ginawa kundi magmura. Hindi ba? Hindi maganda yun.
Pero marami na rin
But how do you implement
Where will legislation like that come from?
They
Where
can
will
do it.
legislation come
They
back
can
from?
do it. Hindi kailangan ng legislation.
Hindi kailangan yan?
Talk to Facebook. I had
Hindi, kasi yung broadcast, halimbawa, binibilang yung number of hours, binibilang yung advertising spend, di ba?
But then,
So
still
sa
again,
Facebook, wala bang controls na ilalagay
yun ang
dyan?
the best solution doon para mabawasan yung sinasabing mga trolls at walang ginawa kundi manira ng kapwa. Yun ang
Pero sir,
Yeah,
doesn't
but-
that go
but
into civil liberties? Because people do have the right to make as many accounts as they want to, so long as they don't violate the law.
That's Facebook That's their that's their turf. They own that.
Well,
Ayaw
I
mo,
know,
ha?
but
Pwede tayong
so, but
sabihan.
you're
But,
going
but
to
either
leave it
way,
to them
either way, Senator,
to decide?
either way, Senator, napupunta yung usapan sa essentially regulating social media. That's what you're saying.
Hindi, that's not regulating social media. You can say whatever you want as long as it's not libelous. Hindi ba? Pero the proposal is, I'm not saying that this is my proposal. This is the proposal that I heard and was given to me that I know is being proposed to Facebook now.
Okay.
One account, one name, one person.
Okay. Internal, parang self-regulation nila.
Elections. Bawasan yung problema sa trolls, problema sa mga naninira ng kapwa.
Okay.
Pinag-aaralan na yan actually ng Facebook And in fact, they've shut down some inauthentic accounts, di ba? Nangyari na
Ginagawa. Kaya naman nilang gawin.
they pulled down.
In any case, Senator, dalhin ko lang po dun sa punto nyo. You raised yung influence ng, and I can believe that, number one pa rin ang broadcast, TV and radio in particular. So what are you saying? That despite the pandemic and despite anticipated quarantines continuing, that anybody running for the elections still essentially has the same traditional tools. Walang magbabago sa kampanya.
Ang magbabago doon yung mga rally. Yun ang magbabago doon. I'm sure there will
Hindi na
there will be
magra-rally.
more big rallies. Hindi na ganun yun. There will be perhaps town hall meetings. You invite the leaders.
But as a politician,
asahan mo yung trickle down.
but-
Asahan mo yung trickle down balita, yung mga ganun.
but as a politician, whether you're running with the administration or with the opposition or however you define yourself, you can live with that. You can live with, as long as I have access to the traditional media, I can live without the traditional rallies.
Oo. As a matter of fact, the traditional rallies, even before, were just rarara for the local candidates. Pararara nilang yun Because Look, yeah, how many days do you have? 90 days to campaign. Pagpalagay mo na everyday, mag-rally ka ng 2 beses, which is very difficult to do. Gawin mo ng rally to the 180 rallies. 180 rallies. How much can you put in how many can you put in one plaza? Maximum na, meron ka ng mga sikat na kung sino-sino mga artista ron na mga dadalin mo na kung sino-sino. I've been in national elections
Magastos
since
pa.
1987 Mga 5,000, swerte ka na eh. 5,000, swerte ka na. Kalahati pa ron, hindi boboto sa'yo.
Mas makakatipid kayo, Senator.
Nakakot.
Cheaper sa inyo.
Hindi, magiging mahal kasi mahal kayo eh. Hindi. Ngayon, bilangin mo, 180 times 5,000.
Oh.
180 times 5,000. Kung nag-rally ka pa ng illegal noon, ibig sabihin noon, pati yung 1 day before, nag 2 days ka pa. 5,000 dahil 180, ilang million lang eh. 60 million, 54 million dati, ang mga botante eh. Wala, you cannot reach too much in rallies nga noon. At pag kami nasaktan pa rin sa rally, ikaw pa nasiraan. Nangyari sa amin nung araw yun, may nahulog sa puno eh. Nung tinignan ko yung bilang namin, doon sa munisipyo na yun, halos na zero kami.
Senator, may warning ng PNP against vote buying online this coming election. You think that's a valid fear?
Again, what? Daw?
Nagwa-warning ang PNP sa vote buying online. Online vote buying. Kasi marami na daw ngayon may account sa social media, online. You think that's a valid fear?
I do not understand how vote buying can be done in that case because maluloko ka lang. Tanga ka pag pumasok ka sa vote buying online. Ang kailangan ang vote buying doon sa presinto. Yun ang effective na vote buying sa presinto.
Para makikiresulta.
Patay ka, ubos ang pera mo sa walang kakwenta, hindi mo mabibilang kung binoto ka o hindi.
Walang resulta.
Wala, tagilid yun.
Teka muna, so...
Hayaan mo
paano
nang
yung
gawin ng mga sabihin mo, tuloy na nila. Lalo na yung mga yung mga kandidatong puro gusto daanin sa pera. Hayaan mo, para maubos ang pera nila.
So ngayon, teka, yung PCOS, hindi na yung issue. Yung kasi before the pandemic, pinag-uusapan pa yun eh, especially right after the last senatorial and local elections, di ba? Na dapat baguhin na, hindi nagwo-work itong fully automated, blah, blah, blah. Wala na yun lahat, We've shelved all of that, I guess.
Meron talaga sa aming proposal na hybrid eh. Hybrid sana eh. Talagang doon halos minimal na ang delikado. Pero I don't know if kung aabot kung may papasa namin by August man lang para magde-delay ang filing, hindi na kailangan October. Kasi yung proposal namin ng hybrid manual ang botohan. Tapos tara-tara
Tapos yung
Pero
yes.
Ilalagay mo yung computerized transmission, which is the delay. Ang delay naman talaga ng mga eleksyon, yung transmission eh. From the barangay to the municipality, to the the province to COMELEC, di ba? Dala-dala yung mga ballot box. Yun yung dating problema ng transmission. Pero you eliminate that by automation. But yung botohan, pwedeng hindi automated eh. Mas safe eh. But anyway, kung hindi namin makakaya, ang key natin dito, una, ang COMELEC, medyo nangangako sila na hindi nila hayaan na maisahan sila uli. Na medyo binubulag sila. Pangalawa, may DICT na ngayon. Noong mga nakaraang eleksyon, wala pang DICT. Medyo pwedeng makialam talaga yun doon sa automation.
Sir, if you don't mind, sir, I'd like to go back very quickly lang dun sa politika. You were quoted kasi as saying earlier that you had talks already with Manny Pacquiao at kasama pa sa talk si Senator Ping Lacson.
Mag-uusap kami. Magkakasama naman kami sa Senado kasi.
Ano po yung konteksto ng talks na ito? At yung talks na ito, by any chance, is there any chance of Ping, for example, giving way to Pacman kung sakaling magkaigihan dun sa sa issues. Kasi para naman kayong massive block. Isang bloke naman kayo sa Senado.
Oo nga.
Nagkakasundo naman kayo.
Yeah, ang nagiging usapan is nagkakatanungan eh. Ang tanong ni Manny sa amin, tutuloy ba kayo?
Oh.
Ganun eh. Tinatanong din namin siya, ikaw ba tutuloy ka? Sabi, pagkasigurado na, saka tayo mag-usap-usap. Parang ganun. Ganun eh. Kasi siguro meron ding nagkakahiyaan ng konti. And then,
Pakiramdaman pa.
magkakaibigan naman kami, pero maraming kwento, pero may mga kwento kasi hindi ko naman pwedeng, I'm not authorized to tell the public.
Yeah. Baka next week po, authorized na kayo. Baka po next week, authorized na kayo magsabi.
Hindi, baka once we
Sa tayong apat lang naman
decide,
nandito eh.
Yeah.
once we decide, I promise you, mga August dyan, kung nag-decision kami, I will be very open about everything. Ako naman that's the last thing I would want to do. I don't want to lie, especially to the public, the media. I never did. You can ask Luchi. We had a past.
Oy,
Diba?
ituloy natin to.
Grabe.
1998 ba yun? 1998.
Professional
1997.
past. Yeah, 1997 onwards. Yeah.
They know me. You know. Basta pwedeng sasabihin ko. Hindi naman ako nagtatago eh.
Sige po. Well, all that means, Senator, is that we'll have to bring you back soon. Tsaka continuing all the way to 2022. Dire-diretso po itong kwentuhan na to.
Sige po. Yes, sir.
Sige pa. Senator Tito Sotto, maraming salamat po.
Wala tayo.
Thank you, sir. Yes, po.
We'll need to
Bye.
take a break.
Bye.
Stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. For tonight, let's start with politics. Let's start with 2022 Partido Laban ng Masa Vice Presidential Aspirant Walden Bello. Good evening, Sir Bello.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
Good evening.
sir.
Hi sir, magandang
Good
gabi.
evening, and I'm very glad to be with you tonight.
Sir, let me just start with actually something we ask all candidates, di ba? Dire-diretso ba to? Hanggang sa dulo ba? Hanggang Mayo, tumatakbo pa rin kayo?
Definitely, we will be going all the way till May, until the elections. No, but as you know, a number of different things might happen. There might be all sorts of things, but as of now, we're determined to go all the way till May.
What are the all sorts of things? What are the all sorts of things? What do you mean?
It might be, that there could be discussions with the other real opposition candidates. But we don't see that happening at this point. There might be other political developments, but that might be occurring. But as of now, we're quite determined to go all the way. No? It's just that, as you know, politics being quite fluid, you always, you might be 100% determined, but, several things might occur.
But sir, you did say, you said real,
Make things more fluid.
you said real opposition candidates, plural. I don't know if that refers to the tandem collectively as a plural, or you're considering only one slate, or you're considering more than one slate as genuine opposition.
Well, let me say that the only other opposition slate, I would say, would be that of Vice President Leni Robredo. So that definitely, then, if you want it that way, it's singular. And the other slates have been former allies of President Duterte. and that brings a lot of questions about their commitment to real change. And of course, there's no question about the fact that the Bongbong Marcos candidacy is something that is definitely out of the question. In fact, the main reason that I have decided to run as part of the tandem of Calyodi is because we really want to prevent what we consider the greatest threat to the country at this point, which is the Marcos Duterte axis of evil. So that's the main reason that I'm running. I have decided to come back to politics because it poses a major threat to the country.
Sir, we do
Mr.
remember...
Carlo, the axis
And
of
do you
evil,
think-
the axis of evil, they're both rating quite high in all the surveys, both the Duterte candidates and, well, the Duterte name and Bongbong Marcos himself. What can you say about that? How does that reflect on the Filipino voter?
Well, I think the record of Duterte and specifically the more than 20,000 extrajudicial executions that have occurred, and the record of the Marcos family in the 14 years that the family was in power in the Philippines, it's undeniable, what misery and tragedy they have brought to the country. Now, in terms of the high ratings at this point in time, I think many people do not yet have access, maybe to the facts, or they want it to be explained to them, and there are other factors like, say, presidential charisma in this case of President Duterte. But we see the campaign as an effort to really educate, the people about what has really happened over the last 6 years and what happened in the 14 years of the dictatorship. We're confident that at the end, at the beginning, when election time will come around, we will have brought those approval ratings significantly down. And our confidence is based on the fact that if you really talk to our people, you present them the facts, and you ask them to draw conclusions, and you respect, and the way that you talk to them is with respect, they will be able to come to the conclusions that that neither Sara Duterte nor Bongbong Marcos deserves the presidency. We're quite confident that that can be done. It's a question of getting the word out there, and we hope that the media, will help us, bring the realities out there, because the facts are there, and it's a question of communicating those facts to people. For instance, nearly half of the people were either still quite young, babies in fact, or had not yet been born during the Marcos era. So, it's natural that many of those of this young generation have quite distant reactions to what happened during that era. And we are determined to be able to bring that education to them during this campaign. So we're quite confident that this will be a big learning process in the meantime, and we look forward to the debates. We look forward to the discussions. We look forward to fora like this to be able to underline the realities of
Yes, sir.
or the tragedies of both the Duterte and the Marcos eras.
Pero sir, what does it take, in your view, what does it take to bring that information out there after 34 or 35 years of the information being there? I mean, like it or not, at least until 2016, the dominant narrative was the EDSA narrative. So it's not like the information wasn't there to begin with. It was. It's except that in the last 5 years or so, mukhang nagbago yung timpla ng marami sa populasyon. So
Yeah,
what are we missing out on? Saan po nagkukulang? Ano yung kailangan gawin?
Maganda ho yung tanong nyo kasi may pagkukulang talaga ng mga former administrations regarding yung paglalabas ng mga nangyari noong martial law, no? At hindi talaga tinutukan yung education. In fact, the first legislation that really emphasized yung education was yung Marcos era Human Rights Compensation Bill that was approved in 2013. I was one of the principal authors of that, no?
Yes, sir.
And if you see, therefore, that there was little that was done in terms of making that information live to younger generations that were coming up, then that it's understandable na marami sa kanila, sinasabi nga sa amin yung pagtuturo raw sa elementary o sa high school even, nung mga nangyari during martial law is parang ito yung ginawa ni President Garcia, itong ginawa ni President Macapagal, ito yung ginawa ni President Marcos, ito yung ginawa ni President Aquino, at purely informational, walang judgment, no? And I think mahalaga ngayon na we're playing a catch-up game, but these are the realities of the situation na we really need to catch up at this point. Kaya nakikita ho namin na itong election campaign is an opportunity to bring about yung clarity about the facts, magkano yung ninakaw nila Marcos, ilan yung pinatay ni Duterte sa extrajudicial executions, how many political prisoners were there during the Marcos era, ano yung estimate namin ng 5 to 10 billion that was stolen by the Marcoses, and yung mga ganon. Kasi, these are things that are there. You just need a very active effort to bring it to people. And as I said, we really need the cooperation of the media in terms of doing this. Kasi malaki pa rin, makikita naman natin sa survey, na malaki pa rin ang dependence ng ating mga kababayan sa television and radio. I think 91% pa rin ang dependence nila on television for their news, no? They're beginning to use social media more and more, but I think the surveys show that television and radio are still the main channels. So napakahalaga yung role ng TV5 and other television channels to really get the realities out there, no? And I'm hopeful naman that the media will be fair, and it will help us to get things out there. I mean, we don't plan to get this out in terms of heavy advertising, yung opposition research na tinatawag rin sa Estados Unidos, pero through fora, debates, discussions, we'll do that, as well as, of course, hard campaigning on the ground. So, ang sense namin, malakas pa rin yung konfiyansa namin na we can do that in a way that, say, in 2019, the elections or the people running in the elections were not able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, educating Filipinos in a space of 6 months about what you call the facts about the Marcoses, for example. Okay, granting that that's doable, and that's even really very debatable, even with media cooperating as we should, in terms of bringing out the facts. But granting that that can happen, my question to you is, what is your goal? Is it just to avert a Marcos win and without necessarily winning yourself? I mean, with Lodi as president, is that the only objective now, to keep this axis of power from, getting back to power?
Lucy, thank you for that question, because that's what I was about to get into. While we consider the axis of evil of Duterte and Marcos, to be the main threat facing the country, the way that we feel you can really avert that and convince people, as you said, to join you is by presenting a comprehensive program that addresses the real problems that are faced, by our kababayan. So, we have yung laban ng masa. Inumpisahan ho namin ito noong pang 2020 na we forged a 25-point program addressing all the key dimensions of Philippine life. And then we reduced that to 13. And so, tinutukan ho namin muna yung programa, economic, social, political, and came up with hard issues, hard proposals, no? And so, yung tingin ho namin is that we will be presenting these proposals. And and this will be the basis for looking to the future. No, we don't want to just stay in the present. No, you cannot just talk about human rights or democratic rights. Mahalaga yon. But we really need to present a program and a vision for people that they can really aspire to and understand that they can. With us, they will have guides and supporters for a really future that's worth struggling for. For instance, let me just give you some examples that we have at this point. Kasi pinag-aralan mo talaga namin, especially dun sa economic, no? So, yung 750 peso minimum wage, non-negotiable po yan, no? Daily wage. No, that's extremely important. And we are also saying that we need to have monthly a health support bill of about 2,000 pesos, no, and a family support bill of about 1,000 to 1,500 pesos. Mahalaga ho yan, especially under COVID times, no, when people have really suffered. What else do we offer? We're basically saying you need the resources, no? And if we tax the richest 250 to 300 Filipinos to about 3% of their income, we can raise about 1 trillion pesos that can then be, through transfer payments, go to Social Security support services, that have been very much lacking during these times, no? And alam naman natin na, yung pumupunta ho sa government budget, 20 to 40% of the government budget is automatically appropriated to paying off loans because we have something called the Automatic Appropriations Act. No? And this is why our government has continually been short on capital expenditures as well as personal expenditures. And of course, when it comes to crisis like COVID, in terms of social amelioration payments. No? So we are basically saying we need to repeal the Automatic Appropriations Act so that we don't become hostage to just paying year by year our foreign creditors. No? So it is things like this that really people are listening to. And just one thing that I just wanted to add here. The basic cause of the suffering of our farmers at this point has been all the demands that have been made by the World Trade Organization, including the Rice Tariffication Act. No? And nakita naman ng lahat ng mga studies na the basic cause of the poverty of our farmers is the Rice Tariffication Act, which removed all restrictions on the coming in of foreign rice. No? So nasira na ho yung agrikultura natin, nasira na ng demands ng WTO and the compliance of our governments to it. No? Si President Duterte nga noong when he was first, yung inaugural speech niya in Davao after winning the elections, he spent 10 minutes saying that the WTO, its impact on agriculture has been the main cause of the problems of our farmers. No? And he said, that he would remove the country from the hold that the World Trade Organization has. Of course, once he came to power, he forgot all about that and he signed the Rice Tariffication Act. And, some of the presidential candidates don't even consider this. No? Tinanong si Isko Moreno, ano yung program of our agriculture? And sinabi ni Isko, mga cold storage facilities, and he couldn't touch raw things like the Rice Tariffication Act as international agreements raw. I respect him in many ways. The vice presidential candidate, Senator Pangilinan, well, he was one of the supporters of the Rice Tariffication Act. No? So some of this, of course, Manny Pacquiao, I don't, think has ever mentioned or see Mr. Lacson has even addressed these issues. But, these are politicians. Ito yung problema natin is that
but
the politicians...
Precisely, Mr. Bello, I was going to ask, a lot to unpack there. Each of the things that you mentioned, of course, warrants a whole episode unto itself. But when you talk about, restructuring taxes, wages, taxing the rich, certainly, people will always say, ang ganda nito, but then the reality, you're going to have to push this through a Congress that doesn't change. It's one thing to think about, trying to even win an elections. It's another thing to think about changing the politics and the power structures in the institutions that you're going to have to deal with. I mean, never mind everything all the ideas that you have, but how do you even deal with the Congress that every president has always found to be really protecting the status quo?
Well, Mr. Rampay, that's a great question that you raised, no? Kasi sa tingin namin, number one, we really ought to be able to present a program that's hard in terms of its analysis and hard in terms of its proposals, and to say that we cannot just go back to the same old ways, no? Pangalawa, we need to be able to be smart in terms of navigating such things through Congress. No? I will just give you 3 instances where I have been involved in my 6 years when I was in the House of Representatives. No? Yung Comprehensive Agrarian Reform with Extension Law, which was called CARPER, that extended agrarian reform to many lands that had not yet been distributed. Yung Reproductive Health Act, Reproductive Rights Act, which we passed in 2013, and the Marcos Compensation Act, also in 2013. I was a principal author of all of these 3, and I focused on that. And, it wasn't easy passing this through, but we had to use all sorts of pressures and discussions with members of Congress in order to be able to convince them at least not to oppose these measures. The Reproductive Health Act, we were up against the influence of the Catholic Church, no? If you remember. And we were able to win that fight when people had told us, forget it, wala na yan. With church opposition, patayin na yung bill na yan. But after 14 years, nagsimula pa rin with sila Congressman Lagman, in 2013, we were able to win. So, it's not impossible. But the main thing is that we need people to actively mobilize. No? So, hindi lang dapat congressional or senatorial discussions ito, pero we bring in people, mobilize and active, to go to the gates of the Senate and to the gates of the House to be able to press these issues. No? And the last thing I would just like to say is that sempre, being smart means being sequential about which demands you prioritize, which demands you will bring midstream, and which demands will be towards the end of one's term. No? So, hindi naman sabay-sabay ho yan na ilalagay ka agad. No? We're just saying that strategy-wise, ito yung programa natin, but in terms of winning, it has to be sequential. One victory is necessary for achieving other victories. And so yung kampanyang ganyan ho, is, my sense is, at least from my end, I have experienced how to win tough battles. No? And it's not just a question of legislation, it's a question of good executive management. But most important, you have to get civil society pressure on the political institutions in order to move forward. So we have a program that's comprehensive and a way of going about it that would be smart. No? So of course there will be tremendous opposition, but we feel that we can take that on at this point in time because really our country has no choice. If we just stick to where we are right now, more and more people will leave the country. Our OFWs will be the continual outlet for funds coming into the country. Our manufacturing is dead. Our agriculture is dying. It's an economic emergency, and none of the other politicians, none of the other people running for office are taking this thing seriously. The time that they think about the program is before they appear on TV5. What am I gonna say? When I get interviewed by Mr. Alampay and Ms. Valdez and Ms. Pamintuan. No, so, ganyan yung pag-iisip nila. Kaya nga prioritize namin yung programa. No? And confident ho kami na basta may bigay ho namin yung analysis, may bigay namin yung solution, at and we have the media helping in the diffusion of this information, and we have our people on the ground, our troops on the ground that are mobilizing people behind needed reforms. I think that's the way to go. Wala hong easy solutions na yun eh. Pacquiao and Lacson and Marcos, and even some of the people in the Robredo camp, it's easy solutions, and that's not what we're all about. We're telling people, mahirap ito, no? But you have to be on our side, okay? We guarantee wala kaming promises. We will try to do this, and all we can guarantee is that we will try our best to work for you. Sabi nga ni Winston Churchill, the only thing that he would offer during the time that Germans were bombing, Britain, is blood, sweat, and tears. That's what we can offer. Okay, but we promise to go all the way, and we can't win unless people are behind us. No? So we are not politicians. Kami ni Leody, hindi ho kami politiko.
Yes, sir.
In fact, we hate electoral politics because of the way that it has corrupted people, but we have no choice.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the electoral system, and I've come out after being out of the political electoral system for a number of years. Leody has yung experience niya, has been on the ground organizing.
Yes, sir. Sir,
And this is where we're coming from. At alam namin mahirap, but tignan na lang niyo yung record. No? Hindi naman sa pagmamayabang.
Yes,
no?
sir.
But
Yes, sir.
alam ni Luchito, we come from protests on the ground. We have been jailed. I've been jailed several times in the United States when we were fighting Marcos. No? We risked our lives, in order to steal documents from the World Bank so we could present to the people what the World Bank and the Marcos regime, were doing. No? So we ask people, just look at our records, no? And look at the program that we offer. We're not politicians, but it takes non-politicians to save, our country at this point, because the politicians, are the ones ruining it.
Yeah, sir,
Of course,
we certainly appreciate, sir, your
Mr.
passion.
Bello, pahabol lang, Mr. Bello. Since you're trying to prevent the return of the Marcoses, sabi po ni Attorney Vic Rodriguez, tigilan niya na ang pang-aape kay Bongbong Marcos. What is your reaction to that?
Could you repeat that, Ms. Pamintuan? Tigilan na yung?
Sabi ni
Pang-aape.
Attorney Vic Rodriguez, tigilan na ang pang-aapi kay Bongbong Marcos. He's becoming an underdog daw according to his supporters.
Well, Attorney Rodriguez is an extremely highly paid lawyer by the Marcoses, so he cannot afford to say anything else. But the point is that we need more information about the Marcoses. It's not that he's becoming an underdog. We really have to show what this family has done. As I said in one of the interviews, they raped the country for 14 years. They have not made any apologies to the people. Now Bongbong Marcos wants to rape the country for, and running for this. So it's shameless. The way that these people are thinking that they can just away with constantly raping the country. That is why I will never get back. And I'll never apologize for what I said 2 weeks ago, which was FYM. Okay? Huwag na ho natin sabihin kung ano yung FYM. Alam na ng mga ating kababayan yan. But and let me just say this, because some people have been saying that what if you get elected as vice president and Marcos gets elected as president? Will you work with him? Definitely no. Okay, I would much rather punch him in the face. Of course, I won't do that, but that would be a very, very great temptation to hit that fat face of his.
Okay. We'll let that be the last word. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But Mr. Walden Bello po, tumatakbo po bilang Vice Presidente under Leody de Guzman sa Partido Laban ng Masa. Maraming salamat po.
Ingat, sir. Good to see you.
Salamat
Thank you,
din.
sir.
And that's all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.